Welcome to Open for Small Business. I am delighted today to be joined once again by Sarah Laurie, the founder of Take a Breath. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm great, and I'm so happy to have you back.
I'm loving being back.
Because today we are talking, but we're going to talk about Take a Breath, but specifically we're going to talk about Take a Breath Week next week. And this year we're focusing on sleep.
Correct.
So we'll kick off with a little bit about Take a Breath Week. Where did the idea for Take a Breath Week come from?
I wanted to create something that could benefit the entire population. So creating something that was condensed into a time frame that we could garner support for via partnerships, media, that sort of thing, to be able to amplify it and make it available to as many people as possible was really important to us.
And having a concentrated kind of time frame to do that in.
That's right.
Is really beneficial.
Yeah.
And so we'll come back to Take a Breath in general.
Sure.
So Take a Breath, your amazing business that is teaching people about the benefits of breathing.
Correct.
And it's not woo-woo. I know some people think it's woo-woo, but it's science.
Yes.
And it's about our physiology.
That's
Tell us,
right.
some of our listeners will have heard the original podcast we did.
Right.
But for those who haven't, let's just give everyone a little bit of a background to the amazing work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. So, it's not necessarily about focusing on how to breathe properly. Well, it is. But before we get to that, we recognise the systemic change at a population level in the way we breathe. So I think when we make that and a priority, people start to consider, so you mean I used to do this properly and now I don't. It's not that we're trying to teach them something brand new or this new kind of initiative. It's about saying humans used to breathe this way and there's a very big reason why we breathe that way and now we don't, and understanding the impact of that, the fallout of that actually. Our focus is about shining a light on that. We need to recognise we're not breathing properly anymore. What's the impact that's having, and what are the things we can do right now to start resetting that?
And it's really relevant when we think about small and medium-sized businesses, because what we know from the work that you've done and that you're doing is that when we are not breathing correctly, we're not in a kind of a good state of physiology, we're not performing at our best.
We're not.
And that means in our personal life, but also when it comes to business.
That's right. That's right. And that was one of the reasons I really value our partnership. When you talk about how important it is for small businesses, they make up, the people who work in small businesses make up 98% of our workforce. So if we can kind of look at how people in society are, if we're wanting to help as many people as possible, we need to go to those channels. So by being able to help such a large portion of the population, we're making a difference. And I think to your point around how it affects people in small businesses, every pressure we experience through our nervous system. Yeah. And so why that's important for a population like SMEs is that, and if you look at that category, they will all have a very different reason for all of their stresses. They're in different industries, they have different workplace challenges. But what we know is that common theme is that whatever they're experiencing, it's happening through our nervous system. And we haven't really typically looked at that in the past. So being able to zero in on that and realise that that's what needs addressing first, we start to see, really compelling outcomes, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. I mean, we did some research late last year and it told us that business owners are feeling really, really stressed.
That's right.
And it's been a really tough time economically. Yes. There have been a lot of challenges. Yep. And even though things are starting to kind of tick up a little bit in terms of what we're seeing in the data, businesses are still really struggling. And I think the financial year we've just had was people were saying they'd never felt more stressed coming to the end of a financial year.
I'm one of those small businesses. I get it. Yeah.
And so the work that you're doing and the work around breathing is so important, because if people understand how there's something within their control,
that's right,
that can actually help them so much. It has tangible benefits. I mean, you've got lots of research to support it.
We do. And that's been one of the really, I always call things a problem to solve, and that doesn't sound, I don't mean that to sound a negative thing, but I love that we've got that problem to solve, because, you talk about the scale of pressure across our workforce. people do find it hard to comprehend that the way we breathe will address some of those things, because we're very conditioned to look at solving our problems by looking at the individual stresses we have, whether that's a financial problem, a health problem, a relationship problem, a workload, a workforce problem, whatever they are. When you try to talk to them about the fact that breathing properly will mitigate that, they're surprised, but always surprised again when they feel the impact. So this is why, again, I was really intentional about bringing a week together so we can showcase and give people an opportunity to experiment with their breathing and then realize the impact, because there is always a very positive impact by breathing properly in terms of addressing those things.
No, 100%. I mean, I remember, just anecdotally, when I was a teenager, so it's a long time ago now, my dad sent me off to a clinic to basically retrain the way I breathe. And he's a doctor.
Yes.
Because it is so scientifically proven that it just affects all of us. People present with headaches or sore necks or whatever, and it is just that our physiology is out of whack.
That's right. And it's only, people like your father, wise man, and there are pockets of people and industries that do understand that science, that the way we breathe is actually what governs our nervous system, every biological system in our body. So when we start to join those dots, we realize that breathing properly affects many, many aspects of our health and body and our life. And that's one of the things I've really loved in the last few years, is being able to get under the hood inside workplaces and, with these amazing leaders like yourself who want to provide that for their people. And actually we start to see there are so many different areas of life and business that are positively impacted by changing the way we breathe. And I bring this guy here because
the brain,
when we understand what the role of the human brain and the fact that the way we breathe impacts that, we start to get curious and experiment with it.
Well, and so we know that breathing also impacts sleep. So let's talk about sleep, because that is the focus.
It is.
For Take a Breath Week next week.
That's right, this year. And so personally, we actually discovered the outcomes for breathing science and sleep science almost by accident, because we brought Take a Breath to market to address the incredible rise in the stats around anxiety. And so we put together some software that was going to measure change when people breathe properly over the period of a week. How does that affect anxiety? And we threw in 2 extra markers, and that was sleep and energy as well, just by chance in a way. And when we completed those trials, we were just surprised, I suppose, at the very instant impact on our sleep by breathing properly as well. So given that at a population level we have a sleep problem, we wanted to make sleep the focus for Take a Breath Week this year.
And so why is it that pressure does affect our sleep?
Well, I think we need to, again, strip away all of the things that are happening in our life and just think about the human brain and body. And sleep itself, I heard someone say recently, sleep is not an activity. It's not something you do. It's something that your brain needs to be prepared for. So I think I was looking at I constantly look actually at research and tips and articles and stories around sleep and all of the things that we're told to support good sleep. And every time I look, I scan the resources, the advice, the tools for where they're going to talk about breathing and nervous system regulation, and they just don't do that. So this, again, it's kind of new thinking. Well, it is new thinking in terms of the idea that breathing properly during the day is what regulates our nervous system, and it allows us to sleep well at night. So if we
got it, so it's like a cumulative effect of looking after your nervous system.
Well, exactly, and it is. It's exactly that. We cannot expect a brain or body that has been rushed and stressed all day to switch off and sleep beautifully at night. So regulation during the day which is what our breathing does, isn't about meaning that you're working slower or you're not addressing the pressures of the day. It's just that you address those pressures in a regulated state. And when you go through your day in a regulated state, you sleep better at night.
It sort of reminds me back when, my kids were babies. Do you remember this? Where I remember being told, if they don't sleep well at night, you've got to think about what they did through the day.
Right. Like, did someone told me that when my kids were babies? Yeah.
I remember it, but it sort of makes sense to me now when I think about myself. So, if you overstimulate your child during the day, were you out too much? All those things, because exactly to that point, their nervous system can't relax properly at night. Right. I think about, of course, that makes sense. Like if you, what you just said, if you're rushing all day, and you're juggling a million things, and then it's sort of like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, you get into bed wide awake. Well, of course, because you're wired, aren't you?
Yeah, that we are wired. And I think the point that we need to make for people is that you will still be capable of completion and going through all of the things that you have in the day. We will always have a lot to do. So we're not trying to change that. Many of us can't. What we're trying to do is teach that you can manage your state while you work at pace. And that's done while you're working, breathing properly while you're working. And I think, what we're addressing here is, again, it's another systemic shift in the way humans live in this era. Back in our day, we're talking about when we were younger, weren't we? We had start and end points in our day. We had kind of inadvertent breaks. We would stop for a cup of tea or a lunch break. And in those times, we weren't drawn to technology. We weren't drawn to our phones.
We didn't have it. You couldn't bring it home with you.
No, you couldn't. And so our body had these natural regulation points. And now what we have is a brain that's in a constant state of assessment and stimulation. That's not what our brain is designed to manage. So it can be managed by breathing like we're designed to. And I go back to that point about the way we're designed because I want to impress on people that we're not trying to teach you a new strategy or a new tip. We're trying to return ourselves to how we're designed. And when we operate in the way we're designed, we are far more effective. I mean, we talked just a few moments ago about, the pressure that we're always under and what that does to us. And my observation would be that we have a society working at about 60% capacity. We're not sleeping well, we're worried, we're rushed. So our output is not as effective as it could be. If we change the way we breathe and we breathe properly during the day, we're in a better state. And that is what impacts capacity, productivity, output, sleep, many, many things. Yeah.
So for someone who has no idea what breathing properly means, how would you put it simply?
Filling your lungs would be the first thing I'd say. And literally I'm
doing it right now.
Yeah. So your lungs, I think it's an important thing for people to remember, come down here. So they hang down like rugby socks. They're long. So when your lungs fill, your tummy should rise. So another thing I like to ensure people understand is we're not talking about breathing exercises. We are not about saying that society has to adopt breathing exercises to sleep well or be productive. We are talking about the fact that you need to breathe properly with every breath. So when you talk about that, how are you supposed to do that? You just picture those lungs of yours. With every breath you take, they should be filling. Now, we won't think about our breathing because breathing is part of our autonomic nervous system. It's supposed to sit in the background as a function that we do autonomously and automatically. So there is a period when we're wanting to reset our breathing that we need to be aware and intentional about our breathing.
Sort of like just the neural pathways, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like
we're resetting them. And that's what, I don't want to jump into this straight away, we can come back to it, but that's what our Take a Breath, I guess, software does, is it provides interval training so that when you're going about it your day, you'll be reminded to take a proper breath. And what we're wanting people to see is when they get that training reminder, they will realize that they're probably holding their breath or chest breathing.
And so really common.
Yeah, it's so common. 90% of us do that.
I think sometimes, I'm concentrating and then I realize I'm holding my breath.
That's right.
And I have to consciously remind myself.
And a lot of people won't even realize. Yeah. So when I first learned about this, I was like, never even knew the relationship between breathing and regulation or breathing and stress. When I did start to realize, I realized so many times when I was checking, I was holding my breath or chest breathing. It becomes automatic. It's a pattern, and that's another way that our brain works. What your brain does is it automates what you do most. So if you've become a chest breather, your brain very cleverly recognizes that pattern and it automates it for you. Hence why we've all become a society of chest breathers. So what we're trying to get people to do, what we are intentionally getting people to do, I should say, is reset breathing patterns to fill your lungs with every breath. It doesn't take a long time. You do it integrated into workflow.
It's not another thing to put on your list. It's just something you can do all day, every day as part of your day.
Zero time is required. Exactly. And I think that's why we have seen such strong uptake when we've introduced this, because people realise they can still do the work that they're required. It doesn't require any more time, and they do this while they work. It's just about creating an activation, if you like, to support that.
Well, so let's talk about the app, and then we'll talk about the week. So I have the app, and I get my reminders, and I love it. So talk about the app. Like if someone's listening and they're like, oh, where do they find the app? Sure. What is it called?
Gosh, I mean, I'm such a non-tech person, which is ironic considering that I have this tech and this software. It's in the app. It's in the software. What do you call it? It's in the App Store. Listen to me. And it's a super
Take a Breath
simple,
app.
Take a Breath app, and you can download it. It's free for people to use in terms of the Breathe Trainer and the challenge and that sort of thing. And all we're asking people to do, because we know this will be sufficient, is to start resetting their breathing patterns, and it does that. So you jump into the app, you just set a little training reminder. I like to say to people to do it every 30 minutes. That sounds like a lot, but what we're trying to do here is circuit break poor patterns and reset new ones. So what we were really encouraged to see is that within 3 days, people started to see a shift in their breathing, a notable change in those breathing patterns within 7 days. And that's really compelling data. People were sleeping better. 76% of people were sleeping better.
That's amazing.
People were less anxious. 96% of people less anxious. People had greater energy. 82% of people had more energy. And I kind of want to say, because they breathe well, and it is, but when we dig deeper, it's because the nervous system is regulated. Nervous system regulation is what helps us function as we're designed to. So a dysregulated nervous system puts us into our fight or flight pressure state. And that's a very specific state.
It is,
we can talk about its fight or flight, but what that actually means is increased heart rate, increased blood pressure and blood volume. It actually adjusts the way we think by putting us into a defensive mode, because your pressure state, your fight or flight state, is designed for humans to address trauma and major life-threatening things.
Yeah, so it's like a protective state, isn't it?
It's a protective state, which we absolutely must have, but we're not designed to be in that state all the time.
No.
That's what's happened to the modern-day human. So hence why—
And that must have, take its toll on the body.
It entirely does, because part of the stress response— it's a very precise response. It happens instantly, like a gag response or a heat response. Very precise, is that it shifts the brain into a mode that increases heart rate, blood pressure, blood volume, all of that, but it also dials down every biological system in our body on purpose. It's supposed to.
So is your digestion.
Digestion, immunity, reproduction, every single component of high performance and health is affected when your stress response dials up and those biological systems dial down, which is why when we ask a person or we test a person to breathe properly while they work, we see so many different outcomes. It's the way we breathe in this era is going to have astronomical outcomes in many, many different areas.
So fascinating.
It is so fascinating. I mean, when I've talked to and worked with lots of different researchers and scientists around this who are doing great work inside labs at universities typically, but one of the people I remember meeting first, he is a physician who was working in Stanford University in the States, and they're their work was around ambulatory care for people. So they were working with people to breathe properly, to prevent hospitalisation for things like COPD, heart disease, hypertension, all of these things that help a human stay in a good state. So I give you that example because we see how breathing impacts so many different areas of our life.
Absolutely.
So there's that. You talk to athletes who are breathing properly to capture better data around VO2 max, heart rate variability, heart rate, sleep, all of these different performance indicators.
Yeah.
So we see a universal benefit from breathing like humans were designed to. And our focus back on sleep at the moment is just one of those key metrics.
Well, so let's talk about the Take a Breath Sleep Week.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
What's involved in the week?
So as many things as we could design that gave access to as many people as possible. So it was important for me this year, and we've done it a bit differently this year, to bring really amazing partners on board so that we could reach many aspects.
To scale it.
Absolutely, into important parts. So a partner who has a channel out to 700 schools was important to us because that means children.
Amazing to reach kids. Amazing.
Exactly. I mean, and I hear this a lot. I will speak to adults, many stages. When I say stages, I mean on stages, talking to many people. And the questions afterwards are often about their children because we're seeing children as young as 6 struggling with anxiety and areas and sleep. So that isn't a really important channel to us. A channel like Zero that can get to a huge part of New Zealand through our small business community. So the week this week is about activating through partnerships, and that was really important to us. We've got free webinars to attend so that people can jump on and learn the science. We've got a live event that we're doing with the Business Circle and you guys. All of it driving experimentation, driving people to experience how breathing properly changes things for them. So we'll kick off next week. We'll be inside the challenge is your own personalized 7-day challenge. So anyone can test how does breathing change the metrics around sleep, anxiety, and energy for them. So they'll do that test. We can collect anonymized data, and then we're in a position to inform a kind of national sleep index where we start to see how is New Zealand sleeping? How does breathing change the way we sleep? That's really exciting for me.
And I mean, I can't wait for the challenge. I mean, I already have the app, but I'm going to take part in the challenge and actually, and log my findings. Because I think, sleep, it's so important. And, it is something that lots of people struggle with, especially women. As we're getting older, it can be something, and when you're busy mother or not mother, just a busy woman, it's one of those things that we can sacrifice or
we think we can.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
we think we can or we do, but we don't realize that there is a way to help ourselves.
No, that's right. And I think what we're moving into too is an era where we're starting to understand the significance of things like sleep, of breathing, to address that. Things that might typically have been considered sort of soft skill type things, or, to use our term from prior to this conversation, a bit woo-woo. And I love, that's a really big piece of my work, is actually that human factor. How do things like sleep affect us? Gratitude, recognition, all of the celebration, these really important things that to now we've thought, they're nice, but we're starting to be able to show how that measurably improves our experiences in this current era.
Look, I just think it's so timely because businesses, as I mentioned, have been under a lot of pressure. We've heard from, businesses that it's been a really tough few years, but especially just it's really tough right now still. And I think sleep is always something that comes up with businesses, and we know ourselves, but we also know from data that if you're not sleeping well, you can't possibly perform at your best because you don't have the best cognitive function. You're not in the best physical state. You can't respond to the pressures in the way that you would like to. And even your interactions with friends and family are compromised when you're not resting and sleeping properly.
That's right. And I think too, what we're going to be seeing too, we might have talked about this a little bit in our last conversation together, is we're going to be redefining, I think, productivity and how that affects us as humans. You know, we've got this big rush to discover AI and how that's affecting us and how that's changing the way we do business. So I think what we're going to find over the coming years is we will be changing and evolving in terms of technology and industry and all of these things. But what we're going to need to do is come back to prioritizing, you know, the human side of that, the human intelligence factor, not just the artificial intelligence factor. That's where we're going to see great strides in terms of being able to optimize that as we address the constant change that is going to become a very common part of life. You know, years ago when I started writing for magazines and writing my first books and that sort of thing, it was all about, we might sometimes have to address and deal with change and uncertainty. They were sort of pockets of time that we might go through. We have to realize that that's happening all the time now. We are in an era of change and we can embrace that, but we need to know how to really manage that well. And that is about the human state. So we come back again, don't we, to the importance of breathing and how that affects everything. And I really want to see, I think we talked about this as well, that breathing becomes its own category. We need to start using it as a marker, as a metric for many things, whether it's about progression, success, health, performance, all of these things. Breathing, like we're designed to, optimizes that.
100%. And I mean, it all starts with awareness. So, you know, huge kudos to you for the amazing mahi that you're doing, educating people and making this incredible work accessible to people so that they can learn and understand about how something really so simple can have such huge benefits.
And thank you for that, because it is a lot of mahi. It is hard because in a sense we're changing thinking. We are changing thinking away from looking at everything we do, looking outwardly at what we're trying to achieve and how fast and when, and dealing with the challenges of that. And we're asking people to think about brain, body, breathing, and it's like, really? So the mahi is real, and it's hard. It is hard being the person trying to drive that. Again, why I value leaders such as yourself and the other leaders that are coming on board to drive this, because without leaders like yourselves, we don't get change. You know, we sit doing the things we're comfortable with or that we already know. Doing things that we already know isn't going to help us get through the things that are new and coming at us.
Well, I hugely believe in the work that you're doing, and I'm so delighted that we're able to support you and support Take a Breath Week next week.
So I'm really excited.
I can't wait. And everyone, a huge encouragement to everyone listening and watching to take part in the challenge. Download the app. Listen to get involved in the webinar. Soak up all the information.
Absolutely.
And really take part, embrace Take a Breath Week with all of us.
Thank you.
And hopefully we see amazing positive change.
Well, we will. I mean, we know that we will. And I say that with real confidence because we test this. Every organisation we work with, every individual we work with, we ask them to do the 7-day challenge regardless. I mean, we're putting a lens on it for Take a Breath Week, but we're doing this all the time, which is why I'm so confident that the data is going to inspire people, because we don't get people going, breathing didn't work for me. It does. What we do get is, wow, I can't believe breathing did that for me. And that's what I love all the time. We will get data at scale from we work with thousands of people at a time, but when I get an email from someone saying, I haven't slept for years, I've tried everything and now I'm sleeping, That's what gets me. That's what makes me know that this needs to be here. We need to take it out of New Zealand. This is a human thing in this era. So I love that. And I love having you guys with me along the way. Thank you. And, on that, not everybody has to step up and come to webinars and events and all of that. You can just have a quiet curiosity of your own. You can sit while you're listening and put your hand on your tummy and go, am I breathing into my tummy or am I breathing into my chest? Let yourself learn this at your own pace. Get curious. Download the app. Don't tell anyone. Don't share it if you don't want to. Just experiment with it for yourself. I did that at the beginning because another thing we probably talked about was when I was trying to solve the problem of anxiety and dysregulation, I didn't know breathing was a factor at all. Wow. I can't believe that now. I did not know breathing was related. And so when I started to join those dots and experiment with it for myself, I was like, wow, this shit works. This is amazing. I learned lots of things on the way. I learned first how much I caught myself not breathing when I was driving, when I was at my computer, holding my breath when I was at my screen.
Oh, so easy to do that, to find yourself stuck in a moment.
And I think that's almost a more important thing to be aware of to begin with is all the places you're not breathing, because then you start to see, wow, this is happening throughout my day. Everywhere I go, I'm holding my breath. So we start to see that as a problem. Then we just experiment with what it feels like to breathe, and we know the change. It took me to begin with, I was a terrible breather. I mean, I've got lots of stories I could tell about what life was like for me as a high energy kind of person to not breathe properly. And in the week following where I started to experiment with it, I was surprised, but I also remember when I started realizing that my body was automating and regulating my breathing, because that's the purpose of the Take a Breath trainer in the app. What it does is it will alert you to think about your breathing. That's the first thing. Alert you to think about your breathing. You'll realize you're holding your breath. It's what we realize. Then we just change it in that moment. And so the realization that I had after just a few days when I would check it was like, wow, it's coming into my tummy and I didn't even do that on purpose. Does that make sense? It
does, yeah.
And then what happens, and this is what I want people to experience over time, is you become quite protective of your state. When you realize that the way you breathe with every breath is regulating you, not in a I'm going to lie down and relax way, in a wow, I feel really grounded and like more clear now. When you realize that's the state you're in, you protect that. Yeah. You protect that state. And when you feel yourself getting worked up like we do every day, you've got a tool right here that can regulate that and settle you. So it's such a neat thing to experiment with, experiencing that regulation, knowing how it affects us in the moment, but then being able to capture the data and see that through a whole night of sleep, it's better. That you get through a week and you realize, wow, I kind of didn't fly off the planet this week. I felt like I coped. And that joining the dots going, maybe it is my breathing. So here we go.
This.
Let's do it.
Here we go. Take a breath week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Your commitment to your purpose is so infectious.
Thank you.
It is such an honor and a pleasure having you back here for another episode. So thank you. And looking forward to Take a Breath week.
See you next week. Okay.